Welcome to the Viking Spotlight. This is a podcast about people, events, and projects in the North Canton City School District, and I'm your host, Jeff Wendorf. Today, we're thrilled to welcome Mrs. Amy Myers, who's a school counselor at Hoover High School. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're excited you're here today, and I know there's a lot going on in your world and a big celebration tonight for some of our Summa scholars, so we'll get right into it. And before we start talking about being a school counselor, and just tell us a little bit about you.
I am one of the high school counselors here at Hoover. This is my 11th year being a school counselor in the county, my 9th year at Hoover, and I started my career in Stark County at East Canton, Osnaburg Local, which is a really small school district, and it's a great place to learn and start your career because you get asked to do a little bit of everything.
Sure. Yeah.
And after my 2 years there, I was able to hop over here to Hoover. Prior to that, I was at the University of Akron for a little bit, which has been good to bring over some higher ed experience for the students here at Hoover. And beyond that, you know, I'll say that I'm married. I have 2 kids. One of my children is preschool age. She goes to the ECC here at North Canton, and that's been a really great experience to be a parent now on that side of things.
And getting to close to that school age time. So those are and the only advice you'll get from old people like me is don't blink. It goes so fast, and next thing you know, they're 30.
Oh gosh, I know. We try to soak up every day with them.
Yeah, continue that. Yeah, that's good. So Akron U, admissions, were you? Yeah, okay. All right.
I had thankfully a graduate assistantship that helped. During my master's, the school counseling master's program is like the longest master's in education out there. So it helped pay for my master's degree, and then after a while, they kept me on afterwards in the College of Education, which was really beneficial. I learned a lot about educator licensure there at that time and did advising for students pursuing their different degrees in the College of Ed.
Good. And you mentioned counselor master's and the counselor certification. I think I'm right, it's 600 hours of field experience or internship to get guidance?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it is 600. It's been a minute since I've done all that, but it is. It's a very long internship, and they usually require it now to be a first semester and a second semester experience. Mm-hmm. So oftentimes when you do your internship, you actually have to quit any kind of full-time job that you have just to get those hours in.
Yeah.
And it's very demanding. Like I said, it's the longest master's program in education. Right.
Yeah. Good. Well, thank goodness you went through it and got it. And what made you want to be a counselor?
Well, you know how some families are just those educator families, and that would be me. My family, I'm really proud of all of us that we're all in education. We have that desire and are led to serve and work in public schools. We're a big believer in the public school system. So I think one time I added up all the years of experience, and it was over 100 years of experience with everybody that's involved in education. My mom was a teacher at Crestwood for 34 years. My dad helped out at Maplewood for a couple of years in their culinary program. My sister Jen Mannion works here at Hoover. I've got another sister at Aurora. One of my sisters was at Jackson, but don't tell anybody. Oh, my brother-in-law is an administrator.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jen Mannion's husband's a principal, administrator,
Yeah, so I mean, you know, when everybody's in education, you kind of not just follow suit, but you see the value.
Sure.
And you want to contribute and you want to help young people. When I was in high school, I was an athlete, and I really wanted to play volleyball in college. And besides, you know, the fact that I had really great relationships with some of my teachers, and so my family inspired me, those relationships with teachers inspired me, but I knew if I wanted to be a college athlete, I needed help getting there. And I didn't necessarily receive that help I needed at that time. So I feel like in my role here at Hoover, so much of what I do is pass information along to families and students just at the right time when they need it. And I see myself as a deliverer of that. Yeah. And then families can do whatever it is that they wish to do, make their own decisions. And so a part of me wanted to fill that role. If I wasn't given that information, how can I help other people beyond get what they need to get where they want to go?
A connector.
Yeah.
Great. Good. Well, speaking of, that's a great segue into our next topic, I guess, conversation is counselors in the counseling department and guidance department at Hoover High School. You're one of 5. You're 4 other counselors, and it's set up. What do you do besides, what's it mean to be a counselor? What are the major buckets, I guess, of responsibility besides getting the kids classes they want and all that kind of stuff? What are the roles of a school counselor?
School counseling is a very neat profession, and it's one that I say is going through a bit of an identity crisis over the last 3 decades or so. The idea of being a guidance counselor is what a lot of our families are accustomed to, parents are accustomed to, but school counselors of the 21st century are trained in a variety of areas, including mental health. The buckets, if you will, a school counselor, mainly they're going to be dealing with academic, career in college, and then personal, social, emotional things. So you're right. We're a team of 5 high school counselors. We're a great unit up there. We're very thankful. All of us are there working together, and we all take on different duties that meet those areas. So we play a significant role in testing in the building. I just wrapped up junior ACT makeup tests today. We do AP testing, PSAT testing, and so on. Our college and career, that's really something we focus on a lot in the fall with our seniors. We have one-on-one appointments with all of our seniors, and we learn about what their plans are, where they want to go, and how we can help them to get to those areas. Of course, we do the different planning for scheduling, as you mentioned, and making sure students are checking the boxes for graduation requirements. But we run a lot of social and emotional programming, too. So we have the Agape Girl program. Right. We have SOS, which is Signs of Suicide, that we implement in health classes. We just started the 7 Mindsets this year for freshmen. And we have our Student Social Justice Club. We lead that out of the guidance office and so on. So, and that's only, of course, a little bit
Many
of what
others.
We do.
Right.
There's so much that we're involved in and help with. And I could go on and on.
Sure.
But so I didn't mention everyone, and maybe I should. So there's Crystal Ake and Tammy Einen and Jen Griffin and Brian Girdlestone, and we have our 2 secretaries out front, of course, Christy Kovach and Marie Sistone. Yeah. So we're a pretty great unit team.
Yeah, you are.
We focus very much on our students first and foremost.
Yeah, great. And you're the conduit to a lot of services, and that's the main thing. Is what, like you mentioned mental health, and we'll talk about that for a little bit. But that's a very important and seems to be expanding need in high schools. And saw a report just the other day that a staggering number of especially female adolescents have thoughts of sadness and doubt and lots of different things, and it's just it's a frightening thing to see how many of our kids, both male and female, that are struggling today. And I don't know if it's the world coming at them too fast, social media. You could blame a lot of things, but doesn't matter what the cause is. We see the need for it, right? Yeah,
that's true. We're always interested in finding new ways to service that need. We have mental health counselors on staff, at least through ComQuest. And boy, we could certainly fill up another caseload of a school counselor and a mental health counselor and then some, because you're right, the need is so great right now for our young people to get the help that they need.
Right. So another need, and you mentioned it, is checking the boxes and scheduling. Right now is the hot and heavy season for trying to make sure 1,200 kids get the right schedule to get to where they want to be or be qualified for at the end of graduation. And tell me about that process. How's that work for scheduling 1,200 high school kids?
It's one of my favorite times of the year. We're really lucky and probably one of the few schools in Stark County that can say that we sit down and meet with every student one-on-one. That's such a privilege that we are able to do that. So we start that process, honestly, back in like October and November by building our course description.
Catalogs.
Yeah. So we get that together. In January, we start rolling that information out to our students and our families. February, we start our meetings with students one-on-one. So grades 9, 10, and 11, we see every single student in guidance. Those appointments, they can be brief and they're fast-paced. We're throwing all kinds of things at
There's
them.
not a lot of time in the day to get all that done, is there?
But the kids, they come prepared. They're ready. They're excited. We're excited. And then we're really lucky enough to head down to the middle school after that. So we actually host a special meeting every night, or every year, I should say, for our 8th graders and their parents and even prospective families who are thinking about coming to North Canton. And following that open house style meeting, we go down to the middle school for one-on-one appointments with our 8th graders, which is such a nice way to meet the family. Sure. A lot of times these are siblings, so we've met with the parents before. Yeah. And it's a great way to introduce them to high school. We talk about their course selections and what to expect, and it's, like I said, one of my favorite times of the year because you really don't get to see everybody during the school year. And so that's our one time where I know I get to touch base with everyone and check in. How you doing? Where do you think you see yourself, especially for the juniors and upperclassmen? Yeah.
So then, that's awesome. The scheduling process is long and it's cool. So you get all the course requests, right? At your individual meetings, and then the principals and guidance staff get very busy building the master, what's called the master, which provides a number of sections for each course it's requested. Try to get everybody everything they want, but definitely everything they need, right?
Yes,
and get them prepared for that next step. So how does the guidance department, how do you help prepare kids for the next step, whether that's college or career? What kind of things happen there?
Well, we put a great emphasis on that in August of every year when we come back. We take the time to meet with every senior one-on-one in August of the beginning of the year to get a sense of what each senior is planning on doing after Hoover. And we try to supplement them with information to help them get there, describe steps that they should be taking along the way. And if they're unsure, we revisit with those students a few months later and check in with them again and see what they've thought of. You know, we know at Hoover, most of our kids do go to college. About 85% of the senior class or more goes to college. But we know that that's not for everyone. And we don't want to push that for everyone. Right. There are so many great opportunities outside of a 4-year degree or a 2-year degree that are a good fit for students, and it's what we need in our economy and our society. So we're not just a college pushing culture at Hoover. We want to do what's best for every kid, and sometimes that means it's a military program or an apprenticeship or some other kind of career or vocational training. Because whatever they want to do, we want to just help them get there.
Right.
As long as it's a good, reliable plan, and always have a plan B, just in case. I shouldn't say nobody, but a lot of plan Bs are actually what you end up doing in life, right? Oh, yeah. I mean, I was listening to, I think maybe it was a podcast or a book on tape or something the other day, and it was such a good idea about all the dreams that you might have said goodbye to, or that you're grieving, something in high school that you thought you would have done and then that didn't come to be. But think of all the dreams you didn't think you would need and have.
Right.
And
didn't even think about it at the time.
It's an interesting concept. Yeah,
neat stuff. Well, thank you for that. That's interesting. So guidance, you mentioned earlier that you're highly involved in testing, and the world, I guess in the mid-90s or so, those of us have been in education forever, the proficiency tests, and then this test and that test. And in today's world, in high school at least, we have end-of-course assessments, and all of our juniors take the ACT. And, that wasn't a thing either for a while, but a long time, till recently. But tell us about testing in high school.
Well, I can't just talk about testing, because when you talk about graduation requirements overall, this is a great platform, and forgive me for anyone who's listening and doesn't want to hear this, but here's what you need to graduate at Hoover. You need 20 or more credits, and they are in specific areas, but I won't bore you with that. Testing requirements have changed a lot, especially over the last 5, 6, 7 years. There's 6 tests right now that high school students have to pass to graduate. So those tests, if we get specific, they're ELA 2, Algebra 1, U.S. History, U.S. Government, Biology, and Geometry. So students need to get certain scores on the Algebra 1 test and the ELA 2 test, and those are things that we spend a lot of time tracking and paying close attention to in guidance. And then in addition, the new requirement, besides courses and besides tests, are SEALs. So the state of Ohio now requires students to get 2 or more SEALs to graduate, and there's a total of 12 SEALs out there that students could potentially earn or choose from. And guidance is involved in giving that information out to all of our families and tracking all of that too.
Yeah. So a couple things you talked about there, being maybe a non-educator or not in the education world. A couple things. ELA is English Language Arts, right?
Okay, yes, it is.
I get a lot of that. I'm like, wait a minute, is that English language learners or is that ELA? So it's language arts, right? English and those things, and then also the SEALs. So the SEAL is like a certification area, sort of a certificate, if you will, in focused in areas. What are some of the SEALs? What are some of the options, I guess, kids can get?
So there's 9 state SEALs that anyone in Ohio can earn, regardless of where you go to high school. So those might be an industry-recognized credential. Some of our career tech programs, for example, have a credential tied to them, or a military SEAL because you plan to enter the military after high school. It could be a science SEAL or a citizenship SEAL. Those are based on test scores or grades. And there's more like the honors diploma is a SEAL that students can earn. The SEAL of biliteracy. Some of our students do test for the SEAL of biliteracy while they're going through their
and that's
world
basically
language.
2 languages, world language of some kind,
Well, that's actually getting a 4 or a 5 on the AP World Language exam, or taking an independent test, a third-party test to demonstrate that you are bilingual. You're proficient verbally and in reading and in writing a different language. And then there are local SEALs. So there's 9 state SEALs and 3 locals. And our locals are the fine and performing arts.
I was going to ask you about fine and performing arts, yeah.
And the extracurricular one, that as long as students do 3 or more seasons of something or 3 or more years of something. And then the community service. And so the state is looking for any combination of 2 SEALs or more. And many students earn 5, 6, 7 SEALs without doing much more than what they already do.
Right. But you got to have 2.
2's
right?
the minimum.
2's to graduate. 20 credits, 2 SEALs.
Yes, and then passing your ELA 2 and Algebra 1.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Good. Well, those have changed over the years, but that's the most recent requirements to graduate. So there you go. Good. Well, and it was sometimes we try to forget this thing called COVID and get by it. And but you said a minute ago, we learn from our past, and one of the things is COVID provided some certain challenges that we went through, and your work, especially as guidance department, and you yourself as a counselor, is the work that you and your colleagues did to keep the high school running, and a small time period online. Then we're in person with some restrictions, and a certain portion of our kids went online, chose to.
Yeah.
What changes have you seen in students in general due to these challenges? We've covered many of the responsibilities of counselors, but there's some things you face every day that maybe we haven't talked about, especially surrounding what we went through with COVID and the pandemic and all that stuff.
Even though COVID was a challenge for everyone and for different reasons, that experience brought out a lot of good too. It made us think about our services and guidance in a different light and how we can reach our students and families, and it made us transition and jump to different modalities that maybe otherwise we would not have been as quick to adapt to. So even though it did have its challenges, and with students, which I'll definitely speak on, I also like to take the time to recognize that it helped us all reach a little bit personally and professionally to be better, or just come to our job with a different mindset.
A little bit out of our box, right?
Yeah.
One of those, and I don't know if you were going to mention it, is parent-teacher conferences. Used to be you'd try to schedule 10-minute parent-teacher conferences in person, and you always, by 2 or 3, you're off track, and it just threw a wrench in the whole evening. But lately, we've been given the option, I think, at most of our buildings for an online visit, and that has increased collaboration and increased efficiency, and of course, increased communication. So that was one of the good things that we've learned to do.
Yeah, the flexibility aspect has been a real win, I think, for everyone. But students, you're right. They're coming to us displaying more symptoms or coming to us with more concerns than maybe we were previously attuned to. I don't think students always felt as willing or open to discuss their mental health concerns in the past. But COVID really put a lot of that on display in new ways. Students had a lot more access to things online, sometimes without parent supervision too.
Right.
So what they might have been exposed to could have had a lasting effect on them in some ways in that regard, let alone the aspect of being apart from their friends, let alone the aspect of possibly losing a family member or seeing their parents, struggle during that time. So mental health, as a result of COVID, has it increased? Are we seeing more issues with our students? Absolutely, definitely. Trying to meet that need can be a challenge at times because we're all, busy with our caseloads of sometimes 200, 300 plus students and all the duties that we have, that we know our young people need help and we want to be there for them, and we do everything we can to be there for them or connect them to people that can be, resources in the community that can be. So it was a difficult time for everyone. There were some positives and some lessons learned, of course.
Sure. Yeah.
But by and large, I think our students have done a great job adapting and continuing through that because in some regards, we're back to business as usual. And the kids are doing well in regards to, yes, I'm here, but, if they cannot be here, the idea of returning to school in a traditional way doesn't meet them where they're at today, then we have options. And so I'm glad that we're able at North Canton to meet our kids and our families where they're at.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, we had done a few things. Just for example, our digital learning academy, we had implemented it just a year or two prior to COVID. Thank goodness. And we had a lot of schools didn't have a format set up or a framework set up for that, and we were very, very fortunate to have done that. And it helped a lot. Getting through COVID, but also expanded it. And we've had some kids that remain in that area. And so, I was very fortunate in some ways that some of the things that we were required to do, we had at least a little bit of experience in. Well, it's mid-March, and the end of the school year is around the corner. It's unbelievable. And I think this Friday's the end of the third 9 weeks, right?
Yes.
So 9 weeks to go.
Yes. So
start of the fourth quarter, and
that's right.
Lots coming on. So there's a lot of chicken dinners with green beans and things coming up in the next 9 weeks. What tell us about the end of the year? What's that mean for a counselor? And is there things that are happening with senior recognition, Summa? We know that's here, graduation, all that. What's that mean in your world?
Wow, there's so much. There's a lot. So seniors need to make sure that they fill out their senior survey. That is due March 16th. That is the way that we compile and collect a lot of information about the class of 2023, from how to pronounce their name at graduation to giving them recognition for all the various accomplishments that they have and knowing where to send their final transcript. All of these things are so important. It is due March 16th. Don't forget.
March 16th, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So we want to take time to recognize our seniors. They do a lot of great things, and sometimes we can't recognize everyone for everything, but I'll tell you a few ways that we do recognize them here. One way is the Summa Celebration that is taking place tonight. Yep. So Summa is a program that's been in place for at least, over 10 years, 15, 16 years, I would guess, if not more. And these are seniors who have earned a 4.325 or higher GPA cumulative from all the high school credit that they've earned from middle school up to the 7th semester. So these are generally the top of the class kiddos, and the Summa Celebration is their chance to take in some of that recognition that they deserve, and and also recognize an educator that has positively impacted them throughout their experience at North Canton. So it's a wonderful night for families and parents and students just to revel and wow everything that they've done and accomplished.
Right. Yeah, it is a neat night. And so how is it, you say Summa, and it's 4.325. 4.325. And maybe I'm just old, but we didn't have weighted GPAs back in the day. Help us understand that just a little bit.
Sure.
High level.
So at Hoover,
not that I would have earned a weighted GPA.
Oh, come on. At Hoover, we have a variety of courses available to our students. We have regular level classes, honors levels. We have AP and College Credit Plus. And all of these classes are weighted on a different academic scale to reflect the rigor that those students are enduring as they go through those classes and the workload. So a weighted GPA, sometimes you can see them getting closer and closer to the 5.0 mark just because of all the College Credit Plus that's out there now. So that's how our weighted grades work. They're derived from the GPA on the semester.
The more rigorous the courses, the more weight you get for a grade, I guess. And that's great. And, I think when it started, and I'm not sure, but other school districts have a what they call top 25, or a class rank piece for their high level recognition. I love it that we do it based on a standard and not a competition between kids. If we have 50 Summa scholars, great. If we have 100, great. And it's not where you're not recognizing number 26 and number 27. You're recognizing anybody that achieves that standard, and that's really important. I think that we're not pitting kids in competition with each other. We're encouraging everybody to do well and get a great performance. So that's I think kudos to those decisions that were made many years ago to do that.
2018, I remember going to the board asking to get rid of rank in 2018 because we knew that wasn't what was in the students' best interest at that time.
Yeah. Good stuff. Great if you're top 25, but not if you're 26 to 30. Yeah.
Our classes are so big at Hoover that if you are in a 3.75, which is still a healthy, great GPA, you're 150 or so in the class, and that's not the best way to represent our students.
Right. Yeah. A lot of it depends on the class makeup, right? Yeah. Good. So, senior recognition and so on. Yeah. That's a fun night too, because that's where we share and get sponsors of scholarships and everything to recognize all the things that have been earned for post graduation.
Yes. The awards assembly or awards recognition evening is going to be Thursday, May 11th at 6 p.m. That will be in Hoover Hall, and we'll offer a live stream for that as well for community members if they wish to view it. There will be light refreshments afterwards, and so that's a great evening where we can celebrate the class of 2023 and some of those scholarships that are being awarded that night. It's a nice surprise for those kids.
I tell you what, last night actually was Bands and Around, so it's kind of fun celebration for the instrumental music to bring fifth grade through the high school bands together, and they all play their various pieces, but then they play God Bless America together. It's very cool to hear the progression through the grades. So between music and then Summa, senior recognition, and then finally graduation, it's a fun time to celebrate the graduation piece, but celebration of kids and their performance, and so it's a fun thing. So Sideliners helps with Summa quite a bit. Our Viking Sideliners, Hoover Sideliners helps celebrate that a little bit, so we want to make sure and get them a plug and say thanks to them for supporting that. But tell us a little bit about graduation and how that's coming. That's a huge piece, another one of those buckets, right? When we talk about counselor buckets, there's so many of them, but graduation's a biggie.
Yes. Graduation is such an exciting time. I mean, these students, some of them are working so hard and dealing with things that sometimes we don't even realize outside of school to get there. It is a celebration for the students and the families, but for us too. I mean, sometimes this time of year, the senioritis is kicking in, and we're trying to remind our seniors to stay the path and keep their nose down and keep working. But it is such a nice celebration for our families, and the way that we do it is I love it. It's at the stadium. We have a few different rain dates in mind if we need them. Along
those lines, we have certainly a venue thing to get done. We've got a little stadium project going on.
That's true.
Yes, we're going to have plans for graduation outside again. And as you mentioned, several rain dates. I think last year we had 4 rain dates planned, but it came off and worked out well. It was beautiful. The past 2 have been beautiful.
Yeah, that evening last year was very nice compared to the morning that day.
Yeah, it rained and cold and it was nice in the evening. Practice is, yeah, that wasn't so fun. Graduation is something that is very thrilling for families. Sometimes it's as much a celebration and as much of an event for parents, grandparents, aunts, and uncles as it is for the kids. And sometimes we have to remind them of that. This is as much about your family as it is as you. And so it's an exciting time for them. We'd certainly want everybody to be safe and to have a great celebration, happy and enjoyable celebration, but certainly to do so appropriately and safe. And we remind our kids of that all the time. But graduation's a big piece for guidance, and I know you work so hard throughout the year and throughout a regular high school 4 years to make sure they have the right courses, the right scholastic performance, and mental health support and those things. And it's just I know it's a celebration for the kids, but also for guidance when that culminates on graduation. They walk across the stage. It's just so much fun. So, yeah, we enjoy it.
Yeah, we enjoy being part of it.
Yeah, and then you get to start over as soon as it happens, right?
Yeah, which is great. When you love what you do, it's never a day of work, so it's all good.
Right. Awesome. We sure appreciate you being here with us today. Is there anything else you'd like to share about you or about guidance in general?
I don't think so. I don't believe so. I know this is a great thing that you guys do. I always listen in.
Great.
I've learned a lot from all the different podcasts that have gone on, and they've been very informative. So, no, I don't think so.
Appreciate that. Yeah, we try to share things that are pertinent to our kids and to our families and our community, and we have fun doing it. And I got to say, I think this is one of the best. So thank you so much for your participation and your insights into the counseling office and what you do as a school counselor. So thank you. And as always, we thank our listeners for joining us. And this podcast, again, is a great way for us to share information about the district and our programs. And we welcome podcast questions or recommendations at any time. If you want to suggest a topic or have questions, just email us at vikingspotlight@northcantonschools.org. That's vikingspotlight@northcantonschools.org. We'll be certain to get back to you. But we also welcome your thoughts about this podcast, about high school counseling. We'd be certainly happy to come back and talk about those questions on future podcasts. And just a note, we'll be off next week due to spring break. And so we listen and hope that everybody has a great spring break. Be safe and enjoyable. Catch your breath a little bit for the final rush to the end of the school year. And we'll be back in a couple weeks. So thanks for listening, and go Vikings.